The most expensive ingredient in a croissant isn't butter, and understanding why might completely change the way you think about food businesses. Because when you break down the economics of a bakery, the ingredients are only a small piece of the puzzle. The real costs are hidden elsewhere, and they're the reason some bakeries thrive while others barely survive. Today, we're dissecting a single croissant to reveal the business hidden inside every pastry case. Welcome to the math behind the business. In 2026, the bakery industry is a battleground of thin margins and high overheads. We are going to break down the cost of goods sold, the intense labor required for lamination, the killer that is rent, and the profit margin on a single pastry. The ingredient math, the cost of the dough. Let's start with the raw materials. A croissant is simple: flour, water, yeast, milk, sugar, salt, and a lot of butter. Let's calculate the cost of goods sold for one single croissant. 1. Flour. A high-quality bread flour or pastry flour is needed. For a batch of 50 croissants, you use roughly 500 grams of flour. Flour costs roughly 50 cents per pound in bulk. Flour cost per croissant, 2 cents. 2. Butter. This is the star. You need European-style high-fat butter for proper lamination. It is expensive. You use roughly 300 grams of butter for that same batch of 50. Premium butter costs roughly $4 per pound. Butter cost per croissant, 15 cents. 3. Other ingredients: milk, sugar, yeast, salt, and an egg wash. Combined cost per croissant, 5 cents. The total ingredient cost: flour, 2 cents. Butter, 15 cents. Other, 5 cents. Total COGS, 22 cents. That is the physical cost of the product in your hand. If you sell this croissant for $3.50, your gross profit is $3.28. That is a 93% gross margin. This is why people get excited about the bakery business. You turn 22 cents into $3.50. But this is the illusion. The ingredients are cheap, but the process is expensive. The labor of lamination, the time cost. Why is a croissant more expensive than a dinner roll? Because of lamination. Lamination is the process of folding butter into dough to create hundreds of layers. This creates the flaky texture. It is not automated. It requires human hands and time. Let's calculate the labor cost. To make a batch of 50 croissants from scratch, a baker spends roughly 2 hours of active work over a 2-day period. There is mixing, chilling, folding, turning, rolling, cutting, shaping, proofing, and baking. The labor math: a skilled baker in the US earns roughly $20 to $25 per hour. Let's use $22 per hour. 2 hours of active work times $22 equals $44. Batch size, 50 croissants. Direct labor cost per croissant, 88 cents. Suddenly the cost has jumped from 22 cents to $1.10, and we haven't paid the rent, the electricity, or the insurance yet. In a bakery, you are not selling ingredients. You are selling skilled time. If you try to cut corners on labor by rushing the process, you ruin the product. The layers won't form. The croissant will be dense. You cannot automate a croissant easily. This high labor requirement is why the most expensive ingredient is actually the human effort. The overhead, the rent, and the ovens. This is where the business model gets scary. Bakeries are different from food trucks. You cannot park a bakery in a cheap industrial zone. You need a retail storefront with foot traffic. You need people walking by smelling the butter. The monthly burn rate. Let's look at a small 800 square foot bakery in an average US city. 1. Rent. Prime retail space for a bakery costs $3,000 to $5,000 a month. Let's use $4,000. 2. Utilities. Bakeries run ovens at high heat all day. Walk-in freezers run 24/7. Electric and gas bills are massive. Monthly utilities, $1,200. 3. Equipment depreciation. Ovens, mixers, sheeters, refrigerators. They break. They need service. Monthly maintenance and depreciation, $500. 4. Packaging and miscellaneous. Boxes, bags, napkins, receipts, marketing, insurance. Monthly cost, $800. Total monthly fixed overhead, rent, $4,000. Utilities, $1,200. Maintenance, $500. Miscellaneous, $800. Total burn rate, $6,500. This is the number you have to hit before you make a single dollar of profit. You have to sell thousands of croissants just to pay the landlord. Let's say you make $2 in contribution margin per croissant after ingredients and direct labor. To cover your $6,500 overhead, you need to sell 3,250 croissants a month. That is roughly 110 croissants a day. If you sell less than 110 croissants a day, you are losing money. Most bakeries don't just sell croissants, they sell coffee and bread to spread the overhead, but the pressure of that daily volume is immense. Understanding the weight of rent on a single pastry is crucial. The hidden cost, waste, and shelf life. Here is the trap in the bakery business: perishability. A croissant has a shelf life of roughly 24 hours, maybe 48 hours if you stretch it. After that, it is stale. You cannot sell a 3-day-old croissant at full price. Unlike a t-shirt that can sit on a shelf for a year, your inventory dies every night. The waste math. A bakery must have a display case full of pastries to look appealing. You cannot have an empty case. If you bake 200 croissants but only sell 150, you have 50 left over. Revenue from 150 sales, $525. Cost of ingredients and labor for all 200, $220. Gross profit, $305. But wait, you still have the rent to pay. If you consistently overproduce, you eat into your margins. If you underproduce, you lose customers who walk in and see an empty case. The salvage strategy: smart bakeries use day-old bags. They sell yesterday's croissants at 50% off. This recovers the ingredient cost, but it kills the profit. Ideally, you want to sell 95% of your product fresh. But hitting that 95% efficiency rate requires perfect demand forecasting. You have to predict the weather, the traffic, and the local events. A rainy Tuesday can ruin a bakery's weekly profit margin because people don't come out. You still paid the baker to make the croissants, you still paid the rent, but the customers didn't show up. That is the risk of the perishable food model. The profit calculation, the final price. Let's put it all together. What is the real cost of a croissant? The total cost per croissant: ingredients, 22 cents. Direct labor, 88 cents. Overhead allocation. Let's assume you sell 150 croissants a day. Your monthly overhead is $6,500. Daily overhead, $6,500 divided by 30 equals $216. Overhead per croissant, $216 divided by 150 equals $1.44. Total cost, $2.54. The selling price, $3.50. Net profit per croissant, 96 cents. You make less than $1 per croissant. To make a living wage of $5,000 a month, you need to sell roughly 5,200 croissants a month. That is selling 175 croissants every single day. That is a lot of butter. That is a lot of folding. And if your rent is higher or your labor is slower, that $0.96 profit disappears instantly. The verdict: how to win. So, is the bakery business worth it? The hard truth: selling only croissants is a difficult path to wealth. The margins are too tight and the labor is too high. You are competing against supermarkets that sell croissants for $1 using frozen dough. The winning strategy. The winners in this industry use the croissant as a loss leader or a traffic driver. They get you in the door for the croissant. Then they sell you a coffee. Coffee has a 90% profit margin. It costs 15 cents to make and sells for $3. The profit from one coffee covers the rent for the hour. The croissant proves the quality. The coffee pays the bills. The expansion. Successful bakeries also scale by selling par-baked frozen croissants to other cafes. This increases volume without increasing front-of-house retail rent. Or they sell add-ons like sandwiches using the croissant bread, where the price point jumps from $3.50 to $9. A $9 sandwich has much better absolute dollar profit than a $3.50 pastry. The cost of a croissant isn't the butter. It's the rent. It's the baker's time. It's the unsold product at the end of the day. The bakery business is a game of volume, precision, and mix. It is a labor of love, but it must be treated as a manufacturing plant to survive. If you can master the lamination and the traffic, you can build a beloved local brand. But if you ignore the overhead per unit, you will burn cash faster than the oven burns toast. If this breakdown helped you see the economics inside the pastry case, let me know in the comments. And if you want to see the math behind other food businesses, hit that subscribe button. We have a lot more to uncover.